President to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings, but when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the President ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the President said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board, and both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. This operation,
USS Iwo Jima. I mean, we all heard all he said, Abby. The detailed
analysis of how they eventually got him. If you watch it, if you have not actually really been following, okay, because there's so many shootings, too many shootings. That's why I'm not really bringing you the clips, but they are more or less like you are watching a movie. They haven't shown us what went down like on the ground, right? But those who are able to capture the moment on their phones and all over Caracas also, right? Caracas, their capital, shown that indeed it was like a shooting galore, right? 150 aircrafts. He listed them, and including the bomber. All of that, it was more or less like an operation that was supposed to probably last for maybe 6 hours. And that's what happened. So Maduro was extracted, the president of a country. Yes, he's been indicted to have been responsible for the death of so many Americans. Okay? Yeah, he's been indicted for killing Americans. So his own case is worse than what Nigeria situation is for Trump. So it is believed that the Venezuela oil will pay for all of this. That's what Trump said. The sins of Maduro, right, includes attacking American vessels, kidnapping Americans, and even killing Americans. There was a time, and I think it was last year, right, that America had to agree with another country to release some of the supposed Venezuelans, okay, linked to different kind of crimes, back to 238 of them or thereabouts, returned back to Venezuela. So this whole thing has been going on for a while, okay? And what just happened now is to remind all of it, at least this generation, for those who probably are still very much younger, is to remind all of us that some things in this world and the world order that they have today, no matter how much some of us probably feels about this bullish nature of America, so they say, welcome to adulthood, all right? So there are some things that will happen in this world that ordinarily you can know that it's only America that can do this. There is no other country that will be, that actually would go into another country, right? Like America just did or have been doing, that would not really get their own hands burnt. Take a look at Russia and Ukraine and how that played out and all of that. So America has that such power that sometimes people will say, we made America the police of the world. But to them, they have the power to neutralize anything they feel is a threat to them. And you may be wondering, how is that a threat to them? But when you pay attention, you realize that their foreign policy is built on this to neutralize threat all over the place. But what we usually get would be to have a regime change, whereby the government will be toppled, or even have the president assassinated so that they can change the leadership of the country. But this seems to be like unprecedented. And if it has happened before, I bet it's probably going to be like decades ago. So why did they do it? And what is going to happen to Venezuela now? Like Maduro has been removed. His supposed deputy is currently not really in charge. So what is going to happen to Venezuela? Yeah, so Trump said this.
Nicolas Maduro was indicted.
In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and stole American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, so we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it.
America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. We are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial. So it's not going to cost us anything. We want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to,
Trump.
So he is not wrong, by the way, until the 1st of January, 1976. American oil companies, they were the ones running probably like 80 to 90%, if not 100% of the Venezuelan's oil company, or oil industry rather. So what they had at the time was just like what you have in Nigeria, the NNPC, which is national oil, the supposed head of the Nigerian oil. So they had say in Venezuela until the 1st of January 1976, when they chased away the Americans. And since then, right, it's been one sanction after the other because they nationalized the oil industry. And that simply means every oil business or whatever oil company in the country would have to leave their assets. So many of them kind of like still hold that grudge. And in fact, so many Venezuelans were chased to the exile since then, okay? However, Maduro himself, right, is actually not a saint, if we are being honest. We have had instances where Maduro clamped down on the people of Venezuela. Many times they have actually rejected him at the poll, but because it's got that kind of like a dictatorial power whereby the country is so, like Nigeria, so very much corrupt, even though it's supposed to be like a very rich country in oil and all that, right? So the people that rejected his party, ended up just like either in exile or dead or in prison, including opposition leaders. So protest in Venezuela, right, is always very much brutal. There are times that we have seen videos of the military, Venezuelan military, right, running protesters, running them over with APC, those armored personnel carriers, truck here, running protesters over, like tens of them, running them over in an effort to cut or kind of like end any form of national protest against Maduro. So he's seen as a dictator, while others who are also Venezuelans, his own supporters, see him as a liberator, that the entire economic hardship being faced by Venezuelans is not because of Maduro. It's not because of Maduro, it is because of America. And since America continues to be hostile to them, right, and Maduro is standing up to America, so yeah, socialist continues. So for what happened last night or this morning, that has now come to an end. And according to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of America. Now, this is also a message for those who are running Nigeria too. I know your situation hasn't really kind of like pressed to that level of that Maduro's, right? But it is Donald Trump. When he says he's going to do something, whether you like it or not, he's going to do it. Do you get what I mean? But when your country, when the leadership of your country puts you in that situation where you are actually like, you feel somehow like insulted that what your country could actually do is what America is now threatening to do. Now it's sounding like opposite of what you would want to happen. But what put you in that situation? Bad leadership that continue to romance the terrorists, explaining to us, right, why we should understand their own proposition, which means we should learn to live with this terrorist kind of, right, while the killings continue. So when Trump says something, Rubio says, you better take him serious.
Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
Don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy. But instead, he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office because it's not going to turn out well. Nicolas Maduro was in.
Do you get that? Is Donald Trump. Do you get what I mean now? So you shouldn't play game with him. He doesn't play game. He'll tell you if Donald Trump orders or order any kind of a strike or action in your country will pay for it. America won't pay a dime. You understand that they won't pay a dime. That's Trump. And I was having a chat with a friend this evening, just before the program, and we're talking about this, that the news is all over the place. And right now, we could just have been reading the news like, okay, maybe something just happening somewhere. But as they call it, geopolitics and the rest of it. I said, America, for over the years, for like decades, right? America does not do anything for free. The Iraqi war was paid for with the Iraqi oil. You see, every penny spent in all these places, Afghanistan or Iraq, all these places, right? It is only Donald Trump that is kind of like so straightforward to tell you and say, you pay for it. But, generally, we will say, oh, they are coming for the oil. Oh, they are coming for our oil. Look at what they did in Iraq. It was their oil. Look at what they did in Libya. It was their oil. And all of that stuff, right? But what you don't really get is that if for any reason the leadership of your country decided to swerve away from their supposed constitutional kind of like power to begin to dwell in things that will then make your country